The stars looked different through the viewport of the human ship. Day pressed his hand against the cold glass and watched the purple planet grow larger as they approached. Ostrava. The home world of the Velthrons, a species that made most humans nervous. He turned away from the window and checked his weapon for the third time that hour. Everything was in order, just like the previous 2 checks. But Day couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong with this mission. Still worrying? Hyun walked up beside him with a grin. His fellow security officer always seemed relaxed, even when they were flying into potential danger. Just being prepared, Day replied quietly. Hyun laughed and slapped him on the shoulder. You know what your problem is? You care too much. We're just here to stand around and look professional while the diplomats do their thing. Easy assignment. Day wanted to believe that. The mission briefing had been simple enough. Escort Ambassador Nari to the Velthron Royal Palace. Attend some ceremony. Show respect to their culture. Sign a few trade agreements, then go home. But the Velthrons were not like other species humans had encountered. They were insectoid, with hard shells covering their bodies and mandibles that clicked when they spoke. They were stronger than humans, faster than humans, and their technology was centuries ahead. They had allowed trade talks only because they needed some minerals that human colonies could provide. The briefing had been very clear on one point. The Velthrons saw humans as inferior, weak, soft. If the human delegation made any mistakes, the Velthrons would end all contact. Possibly forever. Attention all crew, the ship's captain announced over the speakers. We're beginning our descent to the capital city. All personnel report to assigned positions. Day followed Hyun to the main cabin where Ambassador Nari was reviewing documents on her datapad. She was a woman in her 50s with sharp eyes and an impressive record of successful negotiations with difficult alien species. If anyone could make this mission work, it was her. Are we ready? She asked without looking up from her screen. Yes, Ambassador, Day confirmed. All security protocols are in place. Beside Nari sat Yuna, the team's medical officer. She was younger than the ambassador but had earned her position through years of studying alien biology. She looked pale and nervous. I've been reading about Velthron culture, Yuna said softly. They have very specific rules about eye contact, physical distance, and proper greetings. One wrong move could offend them. Then we won't make any wrong moves, Nari said calmly. We follow their protocols exactly. We show respect. We smile and nod. And we remember that we're representing all of humanity. The ship landed with a gentle thud. Through the viewport, Day could see the Velthron Palace complex. It was massive, built from some kind of purple crystal that seemed to glow in the sunlight. Towers reached toward the sky, and bridges connected different sections of the building high above the ground. Beautiful, Yuna whispered. Intimidating, Hyun corrected. They were both right, Day thought. The exit ramp lowered, and immediately a group of Velthron guards surrounded the ship. They wore ceremonial armor that reflected light like diamonds, and each carried weapons that hummed with barely contained energy. The lead guard stepped forward. He was taller than any human, with a deep blue carapace decorated with silver markings. Humans, the guard said in heavily accented human language. You will follow. Do not touch anything. Do not speak unless spoken to. Do not deviate from the path. We understand, Ambassador Nari replied with a respectful bow. The guards led them through the palace complex. Everywhere Day looked, he saw wonders. Fountains that seemed to defy gravity. Plants that glowed with bioluminescent light. Velthron citizens who stopped to stare at the humans with expressions that were hard to read on their alien faces. But Day also noticed the excessive security. Guards at every corner, sensors hidden in the walls, multiple checkpoints where the human delegation had to stop and be scanned. The Velthrons were either very paranoid or expecting trouble. They were taken to a waiting chamber with high ceilings and walls covered in intricate carvings. A Velthron official entered, his carapace marked with colors that indicated high rank. Ambassador Nari, the official said, I am Counselor Vex. You and your party will attend the ceremony of blades tomorrow. Princess Lyra, daughter of Queen Sereth, will demonstrate her worthiness as heir to the throne. We are honored by the invitation, Nari replied. Counselor Vex's mandibles clicked in what might have been amusement or contempt. It is not an invitation. It is a requirement. You will witness the power and skill of our princess. You will see what true strength looks like. He paused, his compound eyes studying each human in turn. And you will understand why the Velthron Empire has dominated this sector of space for millennia. The message was clear. This ceremony wasn't about building friendship. It was about showing humans their place in the galactic hierarchy. After the counselor left, the delegation was shown to their quarters. The rooms were luxurious but clearly designed for Velthron bodies, not human ones. The beds were too hard, the chairs too tall, the temperature too warm. That night, Day couldn't sleep. He stood by the window in his room and looked out over the alien city. Lights flickered in patterns he didn't understand. Strange flying vehicles moved between the crystal towers. Somewhere in this palace was the Velthron Queen, one of the most powerful beings in known space, and tomorrow, they would meet her daughter. Hyun's words echoed in Day's mind. You care too much. Maybe his friend was right. Maybe Day worried about things that would never happen. Maybe this mission would go smoothly, and they would all go home safely. But as Day watched shadows move in the palace gardens below, he couldn't shake the feeling that tomorrow would change everything. He just didn't know how. The purple sun began to rise over Ostrava, painting the crystal palace in shades of violet and gold. Day finally turned away from the window and began preparing his uniform for the ceremony. Whatever happened, he would do his duty. He would protect the ambassador and the rest of the human delegation, even if it cost him everything. He just didn't realize how true that thought would become. The amphitheater was unlike anything Day had ever seen. Carved entirely from purple crystal, it rose from the palace grounds like a crown. Thousands of seats circled a central arena, and every seat was filled with Velthron nobles. Their armor caught the morning light and created a dazzling display of reflected color. The human delegation sat in an isolated platform high above the arena floor. Guards surrounded them on all sides. Day stood at attention behind Ambassador Nari, his eyes constantly scanning for threats. Hyun stood beside him, looking more relaxed but equally alert. Yuna sat next to the ambassador, her datapad ready to record everything for the human archives. Remember, Nari whispered to her team, no matter what we see, we maintain neutral expressions. We applaud when others applaud. We show respect but not fear. The crowd fell silent as a door opened at the base of the arena. Queen Sereth emerged first, and Day understood immediately why the Velthrons commanded such respect across the galaxy. She was massive, nearly 3 meters tall, with a carapace that showed the scars of countless battles. Jewels and precious metals decorated her armor, but they didn't hide her warrior nature. This was a queen who had fought her way to power and held it through strength. She took her position on the royal platform across from the human delegation. Her compound eyes swept across the amphitheater, and when they briefly focused on the humans, Day felt his spine straighten involuntarily. Even from this distance, her presence was overwhelming. Then Princess Lyra entered the arena, and the crowd erupted in a clicking, chirping sound that must have been Velthron applause. The princess was smaller than her mother, but no less impressive. Her carapace was a beautiful opalescent color that shifted between blue and green in the light. She moved with a grace that seemed impossible for someone in armor. She's young, Yuna whispered, maybe equivalent to a human in their early 20s. The princess raised one clawed hand, and the crowd fell silent again. She spoke in the Velthron language, her voice carrying easily across the amphitheater. A translator device provided a human language version for the delegation. I am Lyra, daughter of Sereth, heir to the Velthron throne. Today I prove my worthiness through combat. I demonstrate the skills that will one day lead our empire to greater glory. Holographic projectors activated around the arena. Suddenly, the princess was surrounded by enemy figures. They looked like soldiers from various alien species the Velthrons had fought in past wars. The simulation began. Day watched, fascinated despite himself. Princess Lyra moved like water, flowing from one opponent to the next. Her bladed weapons cut through the holographic enemies with precision. But more impressive than her physical skills was her tactical mind. She used the terrain, created choke points, turned enemy weapons against them. This wasn't just a display of strength. It was a demonstration of strategic brilliance. The crowd clicked their approval after each victory. The princess fought wave after wave of increasingly difficult opponents. Energy weapons fired at her, and she dodged or deflected them. Multiple enemies attacked at once, and she coordinated her responses perfectly. "She's incredible," Hyun muttered quietly. Even Ambassador Nari seemed impressed. No wonder the Velthrons are so formidable. If this is their standard for leadership, the demonstration reached its climax. Princess Lyra faced a holographic representation of some massive war machine, something from ancient Velthron history. The crowd leaned forward in anticipation. This was the final test. The princess circled the machine, studying it for weaknesses. Then she struck, her movements almost too fast to follow. In seconds, the simulation ended with the machine collapsing in defeat. The crowd's clicking applause became deafening. Princess Lyra stood in the center of the arena, her chest heaving from exertion. Then she turned toward each section of the amphitheater in turn, giving a formal bow to acknowledge the witnesses. When she turned toward the royal platform where her mother sat, she performed a deeper bow, one that exposed her back completely. It was a gesture of absolute trust and respect. That's when everything went wrong. Day saw the movement before his conscious mind processed what it meant. One of the guards near the royal platform moved differently than the others. His weapon came up, not pointed at the crowd, but at the princess's exposed back. "Gun!" Day shouted, but the word was lost in the noise of the crowd. More guards revealed themselves as attackers. 4, 5, 6 of them. They had infiltrated the ceremony disguised as honor guards. Energy weapons began firing across the amphitheater. Nobles screamed and scattered. The princess's personal guards tried to form a protective barrier, but they were out of position because of the ceremonial bow. One of the assassins had a clear shot. Day saw the weapon charging, saw the deadly angle, saw that Princess Lyra had no idea the danger was behind her. Time seemed to slow down. Day's training screamed at him to protect the ambassador, to get the human delegation to safety. That was his job. That was his duty. But his body moved before his mind finished thinking. He jumped over the railing of the human platform. The fall was 15 meters. Enough to break bones. But he didn't think about that. He hit the ground running, his legs pumping as hard as they could. The distance to the princess seemed impossible. Too far. Too much ground to cover. The assassin fired. Day slammed into Princess Lyra with his full body weight, shoving her sideways. He felt her carapace against his hands, felt her stumble from the impact. Then he felt the plasma bolt hit his chest. The pain was beyond anything he had imagined. It was like being struck by lightning and burned by fire at the same time. The energy weapon punched through his uniform, through his skin, through his ribcage. He could smell his own flesh burning. Day fell backward, his body hitting the crystal floor hard. The world became a blur of color and sound. He could hear screaming, weapons firing, people shouting commands in both Velthron and human languages. He tried to breathe, but his lungs wouldn't work properly. Something was very wrong inside his chest. Blood filled his mouth, warm and copper-tasting. Through fading vision, he saw the princess's face appear above him. Her mandibles were trembling, her compound eyes wide with something that looked like shock. She was alive. He had reached her in time. "Worth it," Day tried to say, but only a gurgle came out. More faces appeared. Yuna was there, her hands pressing against his chest, trying to stop the bleeding. Tears ran down her face. Hyun was shouting something, his weapon drawn, protecting them from any other threats. "Stay with me," Yuna begged. "Day, stay with me. Don't you dare die." But Day could feel his life slipping away. His vision was going dark at the edges. The pain was fading, which he knew was a bad sign. His body was shutting down. The last thing he saw before darkness took him was Princess Lyra's face, still staring at him with that expression of absolute shock. He had saved an alien princess. He had thrown away his life for someone he didn't even know, someone from a species that saw humans as inferior. And somehow, even as he felt death approaching, Day didn't regret it. His eyes closed. The world disappeared. And Day stopped breathing. The amphitheater had become completely silent. Thousands of Velthron nobles stared at the scene in the arena. A human lay dying on the crystal floor, smoke still rising from the massive wound in his chest. Princess Lyra knelt beside him, frozen in place. This was something that should not have been possible. Yuna's medical scanner confirmed what her eyes already told her. The plasma bolt had destroyed Day's heart and most of his lungs. The heat had cauterized some vessels but ruptured others. Blood pooled beneath him. Too much blood. Even with the emergency medical equipment she carried, there was nothing she could do. Human bodies could not survive this kind of damage. Time to death. Approximately 4 minutes. The scanner announced in a cold, clinical voice. No, Yuna whispered. She pressed her hands against the wound anyway, knowing it was pointless. Tears blurred her vision. No, please, Day. Don't do this. Don't leave us. Hyun stood over them, his weapon raised, scanning for any remaining threats. The Velthron guards had subdued the assassins, but more could be hiding anywhere. His face was twisted with rage and grief. Day was his friend, his partner, his brother in everything but blood. Ambassador Nari had made her way down to the arena floor despite the chaos. She looked at Day's dying form and felt the weight of failure. She had brought these people here. This was her mission, her responsibility. And now a good man was paying the price. Princess Lyra finally moved. She leaned closer to Day's face, her mandibles trembling. She spoke in human language, the words awkward and heavily accented. Why? She asked. Why you do this? Day's eyes flickered open for a moment. He couldn't speak. Blood bubbled at his lips. But he looked at the princess with an expression that was somehow peaceful. Then his eyes closed again, and his chest stopped moving. He's gone, the medical scanner announced. No. Yuna started chest compressions, desperately trying to restart his heart manually, but with the damage to his chest cavity, every compression just pushed more blood out of the wound. Come on, Day. Come on. Princess Lyra reached out and gently stopped Yuna's hands. He is finished. He saved you, Yuna said through her sobs. He didn't even know you. And he saved you. The princess stared at Day's still face. In Velthron culture, self-sacrifice was not a concept that made sense. Their species had evolved in a harsh environment where survival was everything. You protected your queen, yes. But that was because the queen's survival meant the hive's survival. You did not throw away your life for strangers. You did not give up your own existence for someone outside your bloodline. What this human had done violated everything Velthrons understood about rational behavior. And yet, he had done it without hesitation. The crowd parted as Queen Sereth descended from her platform. Each step she took seemed to make the ground tremble. Her massive form cast a shadow over the small group gathered around the dead human. Her guards formed a protective circle, but she waved them back. The queen looked down at Day's body for a long time. Nobody spoke. Nobody dared interrupt her thoughts. Finally, she looked at her daughter. Are you harmed? She asked in the Velthron language. No, mother. Because of him. Princess Lyra gestured to Day. Queen Sereth's compound eyes studied the human's face. So young, so small compared to a Velthron warrior. So impossibly dead from trying to do something no Velthron would have attempted. This human, the queen said slowly, demonstrated Velkara. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Velkara was an ancient Velthron concept, almost religious in nature. It meant the ultimate warrior's sacrifice, to give one's life willingly for the royal bloodline, expecting nothing in return. It was part of old stories, ancient legends from before the Velthrons conquered the stars. Nobody had actually performed Velkara in centuries. Counselor Vex stepped forward, his carapace reflecting the arena lights. Your Majesty, surely you don't mean that this human truly demonstrated Velkara. He is not Velthron. He doesn't understand our ways. It was probably just panic or stupidity. The Queen's head turned toward him slowly. And the counselor took an involuntary step backward. "You say panic?" the Queen asked, her voice dangerously quiet. "A panicked creature runs away from danger, not toward it. You say stupidity? A stupid creature does not calculate angle and distance to intercept a plasma bolt meant for another." She looked back at Day's body. "This human saw the threat before my own guards. He crossed impossible distance in impossible time. He chose, in a single heartbeat, to value my daughter's life above his own. That is not panic. That is not stupidity. That is Velkara in its purest form." Another counselor spoke up, his voice nervous. "But Your Majesty, even if we acknowledge this act, the human is dead. There is nothing to be done." Queen Sereth was quiet for another long moment. When she spoke again, her voice carried across the entire amphitheater. "Kavresh," she said. The reaction was immediate and intense. Nobles began shouting protests. Guards looked at each other in confusion and concern. Even Princess Lyra's eyes widened in shock. Kavresh was an ancient law, even older than the concept of Velkara. It stated that any being who gave their life to protect royal blood could be granted the highest honor. Biological integration. The Velthrons possessed technology that could transfer a consciousness from a dying body and merge it with Velthron genetic material, creating a hybrid being. It was sacred technology, reserved only for the most extreme circumstances. It hadn't been used in over 300 years, and it had certainly never been used on an alien species. "Your Majesty!" Counselor Vex stepped forward again, his voice shaking. "Kavresh has not been invoked since the War of Seven Systems, and it has never been used on a non-Velthron. The genetic incompatibilities alone. Are you questioning my judgment, Counselor?" The Queen's voice could have cut through steel. The counselor immediately lowered his head in submission. "No, Your Majesty. I merely point out the unprecedented nature." "Unprecedented," the Queen interrupted, "is exactly what this situation demands. This human did something unprecedented. He demonstrated a quality that we Velthrons claim to value above all others: honor without calculation. He saw a member of my bloodline in danger and acted without thought for himself, without expectation of reward, without even knowing if his action would succeed." She paused. "How many of you can say you would do the same?" "How?" Save 7. Silence filled the amphitheater. "Summon the royal physicians," Queen Sereth commanded. "Begin the Kavresh procedure immediately. Use my genetic material." That detail sent new shockwaves through the crowd. By using her own genes, the Queen was not just saving the human. She was making him part of the royal family. "Mother," Princess Lyra whispered, "are you certain? The integration might fail. Humans and Velthrons are so different." The Queen looked at her daughter. "If it fails, he dies with honor. If it succeeds, he lives with honor. Both outcomes are better than letting him simply be dust." Yuna stood up, her hands still covered in Day's blood. "Your Majesty, I'm a human medical officer. Our physiology is very different from yours. The procedure might be rejected by his body. He might die in even more pain. Then work with our physicians," the Queen said. "Combine your knowledge with ours. Give him the best chance possible." She looked down at Day's still form one more time. "He gave everything to protect what is mine. I will give everything to protect what is his." The royal medical team arrived within minutes, carrying equipment that looked both ancient and impossibly advanced. They began scanning Day's body, mapping his neural patterns, preparing for a procedure that would either save him or ensure his final death. Princess Lyra took Day's cold hand in hers. "Live, human," she whispered in his language. "I would know the name of the one who valued my life above his own." The procedure began. And in that moment, the fate of two species began to change forever. The Royal Medical Facility was a strange combination of ancient ritual chamber and modern surgical theater. Velthron physicians moved with practiced efficiency, setting up equipment that hummed with energy. Yuna worked alongside them, her human medical knowledge combining with their advanced biotechnology in ways neither species had imagined possible. Day's body lay on a platform in the center of the room, his chest still torn open from the plasma bolt. Machines kept minimal blood flow to his brain, buying precious minutes, but his heart was destroyed beyond any hope of repair. His lungs were shredded tissue. By every measure that mattered, he was already dead. "This is madness," one of the Velthron physicians muttered. "The genetic differences are too vast. Human DNA and Velthron DNA are not compatible." "Make them compatible," Queen Sareth said, from where she stood observing. She had not left the medical facility since giving her command. "I have given you my genetic material. I have given you access to all the ancient knowledge. Now give me results." The lead physician, an elderly Velthron named Keth, studied the scans carefully. His carapace was marked with symbols indicating a lifetime of medical achievement. "Your Majesty, Kavresh was designed for beings with similar biological foundations. The last time it was used, we integrated a wounded Velthron warrior with emergency genetic material from another Velthron. This human's entire physiology is different, his carbon-based biology, his softer tissue structure, his single heart." "Can it be done?" the Queen asked simply. Keth looked at the scans for a long moment. "Theoretically. If we don't try to make him fully Velthron. If instead we create a hybrid structure, using his human foundation but reinforcing it with Velthron regenerative cells, enhanced muscular tissue, a secondary skeletal system." He paused. "It has never been attempted. The human might reject the foreign biology, or the Velthron cells might overwhelm his human characteristics. He could become something neither species would recognize." "But he would live?" Princess Lyra asked. She had refused to leave the medical facility as well, keeping watch over the human who had saved her. "He might live," Keth admitted. "His consciousness would transfer successfully, I believe. Our neural mapping technology is very advanced. But the body he wakes up in." He shook his head. "I cannot predict what he will become." Ambassador Nari stood in the corner with Hyun, both feeling helpless. They were witnesses to something unprecedented in galactic history. A human being transformed by alien technology, saved by an ancient law that even most Velthrons had forgotten existed. "Should we contact human medical authorities?" Nari whispered to Yuna during a brief break. Yuna shook her head. "There's no time. And honestly, we don't have any better solutions. Day is dead without this procedure. At least this gives him a chance. But what will he be when he wakes up?" Hyun asked quietly. "Will he still be Day?" Nobody had an answer. The procedure began in earnest. Machines connected to Day's skull, mapping every neural pathway, every memory, every thought pattern that made him who he was. His consciousness was carefully extracted and preserved in a crystalline matrix that glowed with soft blue light. Then came the biological reconstruction. The Velthron physicians removed Day's destroyed organs and began rebuilding his body from the inside out. They used Queen Sareth's genetic material as a template, but modified it carefully to work with Day's human foundation. New tissue grew at an accelerated rate, guided by advanced biotechnology. A secondary skeleton began forming beneath his skin, providing Velthron strength without completely replacing his human bone structure. His destroyed heart was replaced with a hybrid organ that incorporated Velthron regenerative cells. Yuna watched in fascination and horror as Day's body transformed. His skin took on a subtle pattern, not quite scales but harder than normal human flesh. His muscle structure became denser, more compact. His damaged chest rebuilt itself, sealing the plasma wound from the inside out. "The integration is taking better than expected," Keth announced after several hours. "His body is accepting the Velthron genetics. The human immune system is not rejecting the foreign tissue. Because Your Majesty's genetic material carries markers of royal authority," another physician explained. "On a biological level, the human body recognizes it as something to be incorporated, not fought. The most delicate part came last. Reintegrating Day's consciousness with his transformed body. The crystal matrix containing his mind, was connected to the new neural pathways. Energy flowed through carefully calibrated channels. Neural pattern matching. 60%. 70%. The physician monitoring the process watched her instruments carefully. 80%. 90%. Full integration achieved. Everyone in the room held their breath. Day's chest rose and fell with a new rhythm. His new heart beat steadily, stronger than any human heart. But his eyes remained closed. "Why isn't he waking?" Princess Lyra asked. "The consciousness needs time to adjust to the new body," Keth explained. "It's like learning to walk again, but on a neurological level. Give him time." Hours passed. Then days. Day remained in a coma-like state while his mind adapted to his transformed body. The Queen visited daily, checking on his progress. Princess Lyra barely left his side, watching for any sign of consciousness. Ambassador Nari had sent reports back to Human Command, trying to explain what had happened. The response was confused disbelief. Transform a human with alien genetics? Using an ancient law that nobody knew existed? It seemed like science fiction. Yet it was really happening. On the third day, something changed. The monitoring equipment showed unusual activity in Day's brain. New neural pathways were forming. Connections that shouldn't have been possible. The physicians gathered around, studying the readings with intense interest. "What is that?" Yuna asked, pointing at a particular scan. "I'm not certain," Keth admitted. "It appears to be a resonance pattern. His consciousness is reaching out, trying to connect with something." Queen Sareth suddenly straightened where she stood. "I feel something," she said quietly. "Like a presence at the edge of my thoughts." Princess Lyra gasped. "I feel it too. A mind that is not my own, but somehow familiar." The genetic material, Keth realized. "By using Your Majesty's genes, we've created an unintended connection. The human now shares a biological link with the royal bloodline. He can sense your thoughts, just as you can sense his." The Queen's mandibles clicked thoughtfully. "Interesting. He is truly part of our family now, in ways I did not anticipate." On the fifth day, Day's eyes finally opened. The first thing he felt was confusion. His body felt wrong. Too heavy. Too strong. He tried to move his hand and it responded faster than it should have, with more force than he intended. The medical table beneath him cracked slightly from the pressure. Then came the sensations that made no sense. He could feel presences nearby, warm and alive in a way that had nothing to do with his normal senses. Emotions that weren't his own brushed against his consciousness. Concern. Relief. Curiosity. "Day?" Yuna's voice came from somewhere nearby. "Can you hear me?" He tried to speak, but his throat felt different. The sound that came out was rougher than his normal voice, like gravel mixed with silk. "What happened to me?" Princess Lyra moved into his field of vision. Her opalescent carapace caught the light. "You died saving me. My mother invoked Kavresh to bring you back. You have been changed." Memories flooded back. The ceremony, the assassin, the plasma bolt, throwing himself in front of the princess. The pain, the darkness. "I'm alive?" Day asked, disbelieving. "You're alive," Yuna confirmed, moving to his other side. Tears ran down her face. "You're different, but you're alive." Day slowly sat up, and everyone in the room stepped back cautiously. He looked down at his hands. They looked mostly human, but the skin had a strange texture to it. He could feel strength in his muscles that hadn't been there before, something rigid beneath his skin that felt like armor. "What am I?" he whispered. Queen Sareth stepped forward, her massive form commanding attention. "You are something new. Part human, part Velthron, the first of your kind, and by the ancient law of Kavresh, using my genetic material, you are now part of the royal family." Day stared at her, trying to process this information. He could feel her presence in his mind now, recognize it for what it was, and he could feel another presence too, younger and brighter. "The princess. I don't understand," he said. You will, the queen replied. For now, you need to learn to control your new body, to understand your new abilities, to find your place in a world that has changed as much as you have. Day looked at his transformed hands again. He should have been dead. Instead, he was alive but no longer fully human. He didn't know whether to feel grateful or horrified. What happens now? He asked quietly. Princess Lyra touched his shoulder gently. Through their connection, he felt her genuine care and concern. Now you heal. You learn. And you help me understand why a human would throw away his life for an alien princess. Day met her compound eyes. Because it was the right thing to do. The princess's mandibles trembled slightly. Such a simple answer. Such a human answer. Not human anymore, Day said quietly. No, the queen agreed. You are something more. Whether that was true remained to be seen. 3 weeks after waking up in his transformed body, Day stood in a training chamber deep within the palace. His new body was still strange to him, but he was learning to control it. He could lift weights that would have crushed him before. His reactions were faster than any human athlete. When he got injured during training, the wounds healed in hours instead of days. But the physical changes were nothing compared to the mental connection he now shared with Queen Sereth and Princess Lyra. At any moment, he could feel them at the edges of his consciousness. Their emotions, their presence. It was like having two voices in his mind that weren't his own, yet somehow belonged there. You're holding back, Princess Lyra said from where she watched him train. She had taken on the role of teaching him about Velthron abilities. I can feel your hesitation. You're afraid of your own strength. Because I might hurt someone, Day replied, setting down a practice weight that weighed more than a small vehicle. Which is very human of you, she said, moving closer. A Velthron would embrace their power without question, but you worry about the consequences. It's fascinating. Day wiped sweat from his forehead. Even that was different now. His body temperature regulated more efficiently. He could function in heat that would have killed his old human body. I don't know what I am anymore, he admitted quietly. Through their mental connection, he felt her sympathy. You are Day. That hasn't changed. Your choices, your memories, your personality, they are all still you. You simply have new tools to work with, tools that make me dangerous, tools that make you strong, she corrected. There is a difference. Before he could respond, they both felt it. A surge of anger and determination from Queen Sereth's presence in the palace. Something had happened. Mother is upset, Lyra said, her mandibles clicking with concern. Come, we should go to her. They found the queen in her council chamber, surrounded by advisors who all looked uncomfortable. Ambassador Nari was there too, along with Hyun. The atmosphere was tense. Ah, Day, the queen said when she noticed him. Your timing is appropriate. We were just discussing your situation. What's wrong? Day asked. Counselor Vex stepped forward, his carapace reflecting the chamber's lights. The political situation has become complicated. News of your transformation has spread across the galaxy. Multiple species are demanding answers. Some human colonies are calling it an abomination. Some Velthron factions are calling it a violation of our purity. Hyun moved to Day's side. There are protests on Earth. People saying the Velthrons did something terrible to you. Others saying you're a traitor to humanity. His voice was bitter. They don't understand what actually happened. And within the Velthron Empire, another advisor added, there are those who believe the Queen showed weakness by saving an alien. They question whether you should be considered part of the royal family. Day felt his stomach sink. He had become a political problem. Maybe I should leave, he said quietly. Go somewhere where I won't cause issues for either species. No, Queen Sereth's voice cut through the room like a blade. You will stay exactly where you are. Everyone looked at her. This situation is not your fault, Day, the Queen continued. It is the fault of small minds on both sides, who cannot accept change, who cannot see past their prejudices. She stood from her throne, her massive form radiating authority. You saved my daughter's life. You demonstrated honor that most of my own people have forgotten. I will not allow political cowards to diminish that sacrifice. But Your Majesty, Vex protested. The unrest could destabilize relations with the humans. It could even cause internal conflict within our own empire. The Queen's compound eyes fixed on him. Then we will use this as an opportunity to show both species that honor transcends biology. That worth is measured by actions, not genetics. She turned to Ambassador Nari. I wish to propose a new role for Day. Let him become an official liaison between our peoples. A living symbol of cooperation. He is part human, part Velthron. He understands both perspectives. Who better to bridge the gap between our civilizations? Nari looked thoughtful. It's an interesting idea, but I would need to consult with my superiors. And Day would need to agree. Everyone looked at Day. Through the mental connection, he could feel Princess Lyra's encouragement and the Queen's unwavering support. They believed he could do this. I'm just a security officer, Day said. I'm not a diplomat. You were a security officer, Hyun corrected with a slight grin. Now you're whatever the hell you want to be. Might as well aim high. You think I can do this? Day asked his friend. I think you jumped in front of a plasma bolt to save an alien princess without thinking twice, Hyun replied. Compared to that, talking to politicians should be easy. Over the following weeks, the galaxy watched as something unprecedented unfolded. Day began his new role, appearing at joint human-Velthron meetings. His presence was shocking to everyone who saw him. He looked mostly human, but with subtle differences. The way he moved, the strange patterns in his skin, the intensity in his eyes. Some meetings went badly. Hardline humans called him a freak, demanded he be quarantined and studied. Hardline Velthrons refused to acknowledge him at all, seeing him as a pollution of their pure genetics. But other meetings went well. Scientists from both species saw potential in what had been done today. Medical breakthroughs, new understandings of biology. Younger generations on both sides saw him as proof that cooperation was possible. Princess Lyra accompanied him to many of these meetings. Their connection made them an effective team. She could sense when he was overwhelmed by the attention, and he could feel when she was frustrated by stubborn politicians. They learned to support each other in ways that went beyond words. One evening, they stood together on a balcony overlooking the capital city. The purple sun was setting, painting the crystal towers in shades of violet and gold. Do you regret it? Lyra asked suddenly. What you did? What it cost you? Day thought about that question for a long moment. He touched his chest, feeling the hybrid heart beating beneath his ribs. A heart that shouldn't exist. A life that should have ended. I regret that it caused so much trouble, he said honestly. I regret that people are fighting because of me. But, he paused, I don't regret saving you. Even knowing what would happen, I'd do it again. Through their connection, he felt her gratitude, and something else. Something warmer. Why? She asked. You didn't know me. I was just an alien to you. You were someone in danger, Day replied simply. That's all that mattered. Such a human answer, she said, echoing her words from weeks ago. But this time, there was admiration in her voice instead of confusion. They stood in comfortable silence for a while, watching the city lights begin to glow as darkness fell. Below them, crowds were gathering, both Velthrons and humans, coming to catch a glimpse of the one who had done the impossible. They're scared of what you represent, Lyra observed. Change. The unknown. The possibility that everything they believed about their species being separate and superior might be wrong. Are you scared? Day asked. She was quiet for a moment. No, I'm hopeful. You proved that the strongest human trait isn't technology or military might. It's the ability to care about others, even at great personal cost. That's something my people forgot long ago. Hyun joined them on the balcony, carrying 3 drinks. Thought you two might be thirsty. Being a symbol of unity probably works up an appetite. Day accepted the drink gratefully. How are things back on Earth? Really? Hyun's expression became more serious. Mixed. Your family is proud but worried. The government is still trying to figure out what you are legally. Are you still human? Are you a new species? Do you have citizenship? He shook his head. Lawyers are having a field day. And here, Princess Lyra added, there are debates about whether I should rule alongside you when I become queen. Some think our connection makes it necessary. Others think it's inappropriate. Day nearly choked on his drink. Rule? I'm not qualified to rule anything. Neither was I until I was trained for it, Lyra pointed out. You have time to learn, if you want to. The queen's voice came from behind them. She had approached silently, her massive form filling the balcony entrance. The choice is yours, Day. You can remain a liaison. You can leave and live a quiet life somewhere. Or you can embrace what you have become and help shape the future of two species. No pressure, he unmuttered. Day looked out at the crowd below. He saw Velthrons and humans standing together, talking, trying to understand each other. His transformation had shocked them out of their comfortable assumptions. It had forced both species to confront their prejudices. Maybe that was the real gift Queen Sareth had given him. Not just life, but purpose. I'll stay, Day said finally. I'll help however I can. Through the mental connection, he felt the Queen's approval and Lyra's joy. His friend Hyun clapped him on the shoulder. Good, Hyun said. Because running away would be boring. And you've never been boring. Even when you were just a regular human. I miss being boring, Day admitted. Liar, Hyun grinned. You were always looking for a reason to throw yourself into danger. You just found the biggest reason possible. As night fully descended on Ostrava, the four of them stood together on the balcony. A human transformed into something new. A princess learning that honor came from actions, not bloodlines. A queen who had shocked her entire empire by choosing mercy over tradition. And a friend who refused to let anyone face their challenges alone. Below, the crowds continued to gather. Some came out of curiosity. Some came out of hope. Some came to protest. But they all came because they had seen something impossible become real. A human had taken a hit for an alien princess. The queen's reaction had left everyone shocked. And in doing so, she had planted the seeds of change that would reshape the galaxy. Day touched his chest again, feeling his hybrid heart beat strong and steady. He was no longer the man he had been. He was something new, something unexpected, something that terrified people because it proved that the boundaries between species weren't as solid as everyone believed. But he was still Day, still the person who would jump in front of danger to protect others, still someone who believed empathy was strength, not weakness. And maybe, in a universe often divided by fear and prejudice, that was exactly what was needed. The lights of the city glowed below. Two species, slowly learning to see each other as equals. It wouldn't be easy. There would be setbacks and conflicts. But for the first time in galactic history, there was real hope for something better. All because one person chose to care.